When Jimin's mom reveals Jungkook's darkest secret at a crowded family dinner, chaos erupts and nothing will ever be the same again. You never told them about that night, did you, Jungkook? The sound of silverware clinking abruptly stopped. All eyes turned toward Jimin's mother, who now stood at the end of the long dinner table, her voice slicing through the warmth of the family, gathering like a blade dipped in frost. Jungkook's fingers froze mid-air, hovering over his untouched plate. His eyes darted to Jimin, who sat across from him, expression tightening, brows knitting together in sudden confusion and maybe dread. The air, once filled with the aroma of garlic butter samgyeopsal and soft laughter, now reeked of tension, of old ghosts clawing out from the past. A hush fell over the room, so complete, it felt like even time was holding its breath. "I beg your pardon?" Jungkook's voice cracked, barely a whisper. "You heard me," she said, her tone eerily calm. "The night you showed up at our house, drenched in blood." A choked gasp echoed from somewhere down the table. Taehyung, perhaps. Jimin sat motionless, color draining from his face as he searched his mother's gaze for some explanation, some context, anything that could dull the edge of what had just been said. But she wasn't finished. "You told me it was an accident. But accidents don't come with bruised knuckles and shattered glass. You hid the truth then, just like you're hiding it now." Jungkook stood abruptly, his chair screeching backward against the floor. His pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out the murmurs erupting around him. He could feel their eyes, family, friends, people he had grown up with, turning him into a stranger with every blink. Sweat clung to the back of his neck. His vision blurred at the edges. The chandelier above seemed to sway, or maybe he did. Then darkness tinged his vision. Everything tilted, and before anyone could react, his knees buckled. The room screamed. When Jungkook woke up, he wasn't in the dining room anymore. The ceiling above him was off-white, the kind you'd find in hospitals or interrogation rooms. The faint beeping of a heart monitor confirmed it was the former. He was in a private clinic room, clean, cold, sterile. Jimin sat beside the bed, arms crossed, eyes dark with storm clouds of things unspoken. "You didn't tell me," Jimin said quietly, not looking at him. "I didn't want to remember," Jungkook murmured. His throat felt like sandpaper. "She told them everything." Jungkook turned his head slowly. "What do you mean?" Jimin finally looked at him. The blood, the fight, the girl, the cover-up. Jungkook's breath caught. He remembered the alley, the flickering neon light, the scream. He shut his eyes. "It wasn't what she said it was," he whispered. "Then tell me what it was," Jimin snapped, the facade breaking, his voice cracking under years of loyalty suddenly weaponized into doubt. "'Cause right now, my mother is convinced you're capable of things I never imagined." Jungkook tried to sit up, but pain bloomed in his chest. He winced. "I can't explain it all. Not yet. There are people involved. People who come after you if you know." Jimin leaned closer, anger and confusion battling behind his eyes. "What people?" Jungkook looked away, the kind you can't trust even when they smile at your face and hand you a drink. 2 days later, Jungkook left the clinic in the dead of night. Discharged or escaped, no one could tell. Not even Jimin. That was when the letters started arriving. Unsigned. Burned at the edges. One sentence each. "She wasn't supposed to die. You buried the truth. The debt is still unpaid." Jungkook didn't sleep for 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, the girl in the alley, her blood on his shirt, the broken bottle in his hand, the way her eyes had widened in shock, not pain, as if she had recognized him, as if she had expected him. He had never known her name, or so he told himself. But memory is a strange thing. It doesn't erase, it hides. Now, the truth was crawling out from under every shadow, from behind every polite smile, from the words that Jimin wouldn't say anymore. And worse, he suspected Jimin's mother hadn't told everything yet, only enough to start the unraveling. The rest, Jungkook feared, would destroy them all. "You left us no choice, Jungkook." The voice was low, slow, and deliberate, almost tender, if not for the venom beneath each syllable. It echoed in the dim stairwell of Jimin's apartment complex, where Jungkook stood, drenched in sweat under a hoodie he hadn't taken off for 2 days. His face was gaunt, the bags under his eyes purple with exhaustion and paranoia. He gripped the rusted railing, panting as he looked up. Standing 2 steps above him was Park Sumi, Jimin's mother. She hadn't changed since that dinner, still dressed in elegant neutral tones, still speaking like a prosecutor cross-examining someone already convicted in her mind. "What do you want from me?" Jungkook hissed. "I want the truth," she replied without hesitation. "You owe that to him. You owe it to me, and you owe it to her. Don't say her name," he snapped. "I didn't." Her eyes narrowed, cold and unreadable. "So you do remember it?" Jungkook's breath hitched. His fingers curled into fists. She saw it. The tremor in his wrist. The twitch in his jaw. "You lied to my son for 6 years," she continued. "You sat at my table every holiday. You let him love you like a brother while you carried a lie like a loaded gun." "I didn't kill her," Jungkook growled. "No, but you let someone else do it. And you watched." His hand shot out, grabbing her by the collar, slamming her against the wall before his mind could catch up to his body. "Say it again," he snarled, teeth bared. "I dare you." Sumi didn't flinch. Her gaze held his, unwavering. "I'm not afraid of you." "I should have never told you anything that night." "You didn't. You told me just enough." Jungkook released her with a shove, breath ragged. His fingers trembled as they lowered, like they didn't recognize what they had just done. She straightened her blouse with calculated calm and looked down at him, eyes sharp as razors. "He deserves to know. I was protecting him," Jungkook muttered, turning away. "You think he could handle knowing who his father really was? What he did? What we did?" At that, something flickered in Sumi's eyes, a crack in her mask. "Just for a second, you really think this is about his father?" she whispered. Jungkook turned back to face her. "What?" She stepped down slowly. "Closer. There's something else you don't remember. Or refuse to." Her voice lowered to a near whisper. She knew Jimin. Jungkook stared at her, like she had just torn the floor from under him. "That's not possible. She wrote letters. I found them. You're lying." "I wish I was." Later that night, Jungkook stood outside Jimin's door, his knuckles hovering inches from the surface. The city beyond the hallway buzzed with its usual chaotic indifference. But inside Jungkook's chest, everything had gone still. The door opened before he could knock. Jimin stood there, eyes bloodshot, jaw set. "I figured you'd come. I need to talk to you. I'm not sure I want to hear it." "Then don't listen. Just let me say it." They stood in silence for a beat too long before Jimin stepped aside. Inside, the apartment was dim, the living room strewn with opened letters, photographs, coffee cups, chaos that hadn't been cleaned for days. Jungkook sat on the edge of the couch. Jimin remained standing. "I remember her now," Jungkook said. "Not everything, just flashes. Her face, her voice, the alley. Her name was Taehyung." Jungkook flinched. "You knew." Jimin nodded, his face unreadable. "You think I wouldn't find out?" he asked, arms crossed. "You think after my mother humiliated you in front of everyone, I wouldn't dig? How long have you known?" "A week. I read the police report, the autopsy. I talked to her sister." Jungkook's breath caught. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I wanted to hear it from you." Jungkook lowered his gaze. "I was trying to forget. Forget that you were there? That you saw her die?" "No," Jungkook said. "Forget that I let it happen." A heavy silence fell. "She was trying to warn you," Jimin said quietly. "That's why she was there. She was following your father. She thought he was going to hurt someone. She wasn't wrong. She thought it was you." Jungkook looked up slowly. "She thought you were the danger," Jimin said, voice cracking. "Because of what you'd done the week before. The fight, the threats, the blackout." Jungkook's face twisted. "I wasn't in control," he whispered. "It wasn't me. I was drugged. I never knew who slipped it into my drink." Jimin's fists clenched. "And yet someone ended up dead." "I didn't kill her," Jungkook snapped. "But you were the reason she was there. Your father, he used me," Jungkook said, desperation rising in his throat. "He made me watch things I can't forget. He made me lie. He made me bury it." Jimin's expression shifted from fury to something closer to horror. "He's dead," Jimin said, voice hollow. "Not for me," Jungkook whispered. "Not in my head. I see him every night." Jimin turned away, covering his face with a shaking hand. "I can't believe this," he muttered. "All this time you were carrying this and saying nothing. I was trying to protect you." "From what? The truth? You think that's protection?" "I thought I could handle it alone," Jungkook said. But I can't anymore. Jimin didn't answer. He walked over to the bookshelf, pulled something out, and tossed it on the table between them. A photograph. Taehyung, smiling. A younger Jimin beside hair? She was my cousin, Jimin said, voice low. We spent every summer together until she stopped visiting. Jungkook stared at the photo. His pulse thundered. She told me once that she was scared of something she'd seen. I never asked. I never thought she saw my father do something. And I think she thought I was part of it. Were you? Jimin asked coldly. No. Silence. Then Jimin asked, then why did she write this? He handed Jungkook a letter. The handwriting was neat, emotional, urgent. He's not who you think he is, Jimin. He's dangerous. He scares me. If anything happens to me, don't trust Jungkook. Jungkook's face drained of all color. I didn't know about this, he said. She died 2 days after writing that. I didn't kill her, Jungkook said again, weakly. But you didn't save her either. There it was. The thing Jungkook had buried so deep, even he didn't want to say it. I froze, he whispered. I saw her lying there, bleeding, and I froze. I was 17. I didn't know what to do. You ran, Jimin said. Jungkook nodded, tears threatening. I ran. A long, breathless moment passed. I don't know if I can forgive you, Jimin said, voice breaking. But I want to understand. Jungkook looked up at him, eyes raw. Then let me tell you everything. Jimin hesitated, then sat down, and Jungkook began to talk. He told him about the night in the alley, about the sound of the bottle breaking, about the scream, the way his father's hands were stained with blood, the way Chaeyoung's eyes locked onto his before they closed. He told him about the weeks leading up to it. The manipulation, the threats, the way his father pushed him into fights, made him earn silence with violence, the way he punished him when he cried. He told him how he came to the park house that night, covered in blood, begging for someone to believe he hadn't done it. How Sumi looked at him with horror and chose not to call the police. She was protecting Jimin, Jungkook said, because if the story came out, your father would go down, and you would too by association. So she hid it, Jimin whispered. She buried it. Like I did. Like we all did. For the first time that night, there was no rage in Jimin's eyes, only grief. They sat in silence, two boys with too many scars pretending to be men. Then Jimin asked quietly, do you think he killed anyone else? Jungkook didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said yes. And the war for the full truth was just beginning. You were never supposed to find the tapes. That was the first thing Namjoon said when he walked into the abandoned recording studio that Jungkook and Jimin had broken into 3 hours prior. His voice was quiet, but in it was the weight of something monstrous, something poisonous. His suit was still crisp, despite the dust and peeling walls. His hair, grayer than it used to be, was combed perfectly. The only thing out of place was the trembling in his fingers as he lit a cigarette, something Jungkook had never seen him do before. We didn't find the tapes, Jimin replied. They found us. Namjoon's eyes flicked to the monitor behind them, where the footage played on a loop. Static. Then a girl's scream. Then a voicemail. Rough, cruel. Hold her down. Make her watch. Namjoon's jaw clenched. Turn it off. Why? Jungkook asked, voice flat, arms crossed. Because it proves everything? No, Namjoon said. Because it's not the worst of them. Jimin stared at him. You knew. I tried to keep you safe. That's not your decision, Jimin snapped. You let my father become a monster. You let him destroy her. You let him destroy me. He was your father, Jimin. And my best friend. You think I didn't know what that meant? You think I didn't try to stop him? You covered for him, Jungkook shouted, slamming his fist into the desk. You stood at his funeral and gave a eulogy about what a good man he was. Namjoon looked at him then, not like a mentor, not like the man who'd once taught him how to throw a punch and when to walk away. He looked at Jungkook like a stranger, like someone who had just realized that a part of himself had long since rotted. I lied at that funeral, Namjoon said, exhaling smoke. I lied to protect all of you. Jimin walked forward. He didn't shout. His voice dropped into something colder, something surgical. You were a cop, Namjoon. You had access. You knew about the reports, about the girl who went missing 2 weeks before Chaeyoung. You knew, didn't you? Namjoon didn't deny it. There were others, he said, but we never found bodies. Never enough evidence. Your father made sure of that. He had people in the department, judges, lawyers. I couldn't touch him. You could have exposed him, Jungkook whispered. And then what? Namjoon shot back. They'd bury me. They'd bury you. Your life would have ended before it began. My life already ended, Jungkook growled. The night I watched her die. The monitor crackled behind them. Another clip loaded. Another scream. Another confession embedded in magnetic tape and time. Jimin turned away, hand covering his mouth. She was 15, Namjoon. Namjoon's eyes closed. He looked ancient in that moment. Her name was Hana. Jungkook froze. What? She was the first one, Namjoon said. She came to the station, bruised, crying. Said she'd seen someone pushed into a van behind the bar. No one believed her. But I did, and I followed the license plate. It led me to a warehouse, and that's when I saw him. Your father, dragging a girl inside, laughing. Jimin's knees buckled. He sat heavily on a cracked stool. Why didn't you stop him? I tried, Namjoon said, eyes burning, but he wasn't alone. There were men inside, 5 of them, big, armed. They worked for people bigger than him. He wasn't just a monster, he was protected. So you let them all go? Jungkook spat. No, Namjoon said finally. I started collecting evidence. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket and tossed it on the table. Every file I could get my hands on. Surveillance, logs, accounts, names. Jungkook reached for it slowly. You're giving this to us? You wanted the truth, Namjoon said. There it is. But be careful. Once you open that, there's no turning back. You'll be hunted. By who? Jimin asked. By the same people who made your father rich, who made sure every girl who vanished never got justice, who killed Hana, Taehyung, maybe more. Jungkook picked up the drive. It was light, deceptively so. Like a key to a vault no one should ever open. What do we do with this? He asked. You expose them, Namjoon said. Or you destroy it and pretend none of this ever happened. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Their eyes met torn between fury, grief, and something resembling unity. Like 2 survivors finally seeing the same war from opposite trenches. We exposed them, Jimin said. And just like that, a decision was made. Later that night, they sat on the rooftop of Jungkook's apartment. Laptops open, coffee cold. The files were encrypted, but Jungkook had learned a few things from his darker days. With trembling hands, he cracked the first one. The screen blinked. And then, names. Names they knew. Names that weren't supposed to be there. A politician, a judge, 2 local celebrities, a priest, a teacher from their old high school. Attached to each, photos, dates, timestamps, girls. Some they recognized, some they didn't. There was one folder at the bottom. It had no name, just a symbol, a black sun. They clicked it. Inside, a single video file. They hesitated, then hit play. The screen went black, then static. Then the image sharpened. A room, a chair, a girl tied to it, blindfolded. The camera panned, and there, laughing, was Jimin's father. But he wasn't alone. Another man entered frame. Namjoon. Jungkook froze. Jimin stared. No, he whispered. No, 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 no. The video played on. Namjoon never touched her, but he didn't stop it either. He watched and walked out. Jimin stood. The laptop tumbled to the floor. I'm going to kill him. Jimin. He lied. He watched. He let it happen. Jungkook grabbed his arm, and then he gave us the evidence. He is the evidence! Jimin screamed. Below them, the city lights blinked, unaware of the storm about to erupt. We're not finished, Jungkook said, picking up the laptop again. We leaked this. They'll come after us. We need allies. Protection. A plan. Jimin was shaking, breathing hard. But he nodded, then whispered, We burned them all. In that moment, they weren't friends. They weren't victims. They were soldiers in a war no one else knew existed. And they weren't going to lose again. You said, lanjutkan episode selanjutnya dengan episode yang lebih panjang, 10.000 kata atau lebih. Lebih banyak perkapan panas, seru tegang, controversial, kejutan dan emosional, dan berikan saya narasi saja dalam bahasa Inggris tanpa menggunakan poin-poin. ChatGPT said, Episode 4, Bloodline. You think justice is just truth made public? No. Justice is truth sharpened, turned into a blade. And right now, you're holding it at the throat of a kingdom. Those words came from Min Yonggi. No one had seen him in nearly 4 years. Jimin had only heard whispers that he'd been exiled from the force, that he'd disappeared overseas, that he'd gone mad chasing conspiracy ghosts that never existed. But tonight, here he was, leaning against the crumbling window frame of a safe house, 2 stories above a mechanic shop on the outskirts of Seoul. His black leather coat damp from rain, his expression unreadable. Jungkook didn't trust him, but Jimin needed him. Yoongi had once worked under Namjoon. He knew the system, the rot, the silence. And now he was the only one who could tell them how to weaponize what they had. You understand what's in that drive? Yoongi asked, pacing now. You understand what that symbol, the black sun, means? We know it's a network, Jungkook replied. Powerful men, money, cover-ups. Yoongi stopped. It's more than that. It's a legacy, a generational club of untouchables. They don't just buy silence, they manufacture amnesia. And your fathers, both of them, were knee-deep in it. Jimin's jaw clenched. They're all dead now, he muttered. Let them rot. No, Yoongi said sharply. The men in that video, the ones who watched, the ones who turned their backs, they're still alive, still in office, still preaching on TV, still collecting favors in smoke-filled rooms. Jungkook looked down at the table where the drive sat, surrounded by notes, photos, maps, transcripts. His fingers hovered above it, his mind burning. And Namjoon? He asked. He's one of them? Yoongi sighed, walked to the desk, and picked up a photo. It showed Namjoon in uniform years ago, standing with Jimin's father and 3 other men, faces now familiar from the files. He was their puppet, Yoongi said. Until he wasn't. So what changed? Jimin asked. Yoongi stared at him. You did. Jimin blinked. He saw what your father did to you. How he raised you. How he broke you. You think Namjoon stayed away out of guilt? No. He stayed away because he knew if he came back, he'd have to choose. Choose what? Between you and survival. The room fell silent. I don't care why he helped us now, Jungkook muttered. I just care what we do next. Yoongi smirked. That's the only reason I'm here. He slammed down a red folder. Inside an event schedule. A private gala. The guest list read like a who's who of the Korean elite. Judges, politicians, media moguls. And at the center of it all, Kang Min-woo, Minister of Justice. The man in the 3rd frame of the Cheong tape, Jimin's hands curled into fists. We expose him there? No, Yoongi said. We trap him there. Jungkook leaned in. How? Yoongi reached into his coat and pulled out a miniature transmitter. You leak just enough footage beforehand, enough to ignite public doubt. He'll make a statement, deny, rage. Then you drop the real tape live during the broadcast. Jimin stared at the device. That's suicide. No, Yoongi said. It's revolution. Jungkook looked at Jimin. Are we ready to do this? Jimin nodded. Once, I was born for this. The week leading up to the gala was a blur of paranoia. Anonymous text started pouring in. We know what you took. Turn over the drive or she dies. A photo of Jungkook's younger sister on her way to school. A photo of Jimin's mother at the pharmacy. They moved her the next day, sent her to Busan under guard. She didn't argue, didn't even cry. She only whispered before leaving, end this. Yoongi arranged everything. Fake IDs, earpieces, routes for escape. They'd plant one of their own in the gala's security team, a girl named Sulgi, who used to be part of the tech unit before she was blacklisted for leaking abuse records. I'm not doing this for justice, she told them, sliding the security blueprints across the table. I'm doing this because I lost someone too. None of them asked who. They all had ghosts now. The gala was held in a museum draped in gold and wine-colored silk, with crystal chandeliers that trembled slightly under the weight of 1,000 secrets. Jimin wore his father's suit, Jungkook his mother's silver watch. Yoongi waited in the surveillance van outside, his fingers flying over keys as he hacked into the main feed. Inside, classical music drifted through the air. Laughter clinked against champagne glasses. Kang Min-woo smiled for the cameras, his hand resting lightly on the shoulder of his wife. his face painted in politician calm. Jimin's breath hitched when he saw it. "I could kill him," he muttered. "Not yet," Jungkook said. "Let's finish the war first." They split up. Jungkook made his way to the AV room. Seulgi was already there, feeding cables into the panel. She handed him a drive. "This is it," she whispered. "Once it plays, everything changes." He nodded. Across the hall, Jimin approached the main floor. A spotlight swept across the stage. A pianist began playing a haunting variation of Clair de Lune. Guests turned. Silence followed. Kang Min-woo stepped up to the mic. "Tonight," he began, "we celebrate our country's strength, its purity. But purity is not innocence. It is vigilance." Jimin's heart pounded. Yoongi's voice buzzed in their ears. "Cue in 5, 4, 3, 2. Jungkook hit play. The projector flickered. And then, screams. Not from the tape, but from the room. On the screen wasn't Kang Min-woo. It was Jimin's father, holding Taehyung's face, whispering something. And behind him, Namjoon, not watching, filming. The room exploded. Gasps. Phones pulled out. Some people began to shout. Others ran. Kang Min-woo froze. His mouth moved, but no sound came. His wife collapsed. Jimin stared at the screen and felt his knees go weak. Yoongi's voice screamed in his ear. "Get out. Now." They ran. Through the back corridors, down service staircases. Guards panicked. No one stopped them. But just as they burst through the back exit, gunfire. Jungkook dove. Jimin felt the air split beside his ear. Yoongi pulled up in the van, tires screeching. In. They leapt in. Seulgi behind the wheel. Blood on her shoulder. "They knew," she hissed. "There was a leak. Someone tipped them off." "Namjoon," Jungkook said. It was him. Yoongi didn't argue. He didn't want the truth out. Not all of it. Jimin stared ahead, trembling. He filmed it. No one spoke. "He filmed it," he screamed, slamming his fist into the dashboard. "He let her die. He watched." Yoongi grabbed his arm. "And now the world knows." Jimin shook his head, eyes wide. "No, they don't." Everyone turned to him. "That was just one clip," he said. "We have more. We show everything." Yoongi looked at him. "All of it?" Jimin's voice broke. "All of it." The footage went viral in under an hour. By morning, Kang Min-woo was under investigation. By noon, 3 judges had resigned. By sunset, protesters flooded the city. The Black Sun was bleeding. But so were they. Namjoon was gone, his house abandoned, his badge returned in a plain box with no note. Jungkook sat on the edge of his roof that night, legs swinging into darkness. Jimin sat beside him. "She died scared," Jimin whispered. "And I didn't even know. She died because monsters walk in daylight," Jungkook said. "And no one stops them. Then we keep going." Jungkook looked at him. "Until when?" "Until there's nothing left to burn but the ashes." And far below them, the city screamed for truth. But truth, they both knew, was never clean. It was blood, and memory, and fire. You don't bury evil. You invite it to dinner and pretend you don't hear the screams beneath the tablecloth. The words echoed through Jungkook's head as he stood alone in the burned-out remains of the gallery. Smoke still curled from blackened beams. Charred marble statues lay in jagged pieces across the scorched floor, like fallen saints. Somewhere beneath the ashes, he knew, was the truth, or at least the part they hadn't managed to destroy. It had only been 72 hours since they leaked the first wave. In that time, the media turned from curiosity to obsession. Talk shows speculated. Protesters camped outside the National Assembly. A school principal had been arrested in Busan. 2 actresses fled the country. An anonymous body had been found floating near Incheon port, burned beyond recognition, but wearing a watch engraved with the initials KMW. Minister Kang Min-woo, presumed dead. Some believed he staged it. Some believed he was silenced. Jungkook didn't care. There was only one name still circling in his head like a curse. Namjoon. Jimin hadn't spoken in 2 days. He barely ate, barely slept. After the broadcast, he'd returned to his mother's apartment in Busan, where the windows were still taped for safety and the TV remained off. Yoongi kept trying to reach him, but Jimin never answered. Then, just before midnight, Jungkook's phone buzzed. A single message: "Come alone. Bring the drive. There was no signature, but there didn't need to be. They met in an abandoned train station outside of Daegu, where mist hung in the rafters and the air smelled like oil and regret. Namjoon stepped out from behind a rusted maintenance shed, hands raised. He looked tired, thinner, older. His beard had grown in, streaked with gray, but his eyes, those haunted, calculating eyes, were exactly the same. "You have no idea what you've done," he said. Jungkook didn't flinch. "I think I do." Namjoon stepped forward, cautious. There were rules, boundaries. Chaos is not justice, Jungkook. It's a virus. It doesn't stop spreading just because you think you're done. You filmed it. The words tasted like rust in Jungkook's mouth. Namjoon paused. "I did." "Why?" Namjoon inhaled, and for a moment he looked as if he might lie. Then he exhaled. "Because I wanted proof. And because I thought, maybe, someday, someone brave enough would use it." "That's not why," Jungkook said. Namjoon didn't respond. "You watched her, D. You let it happen. I was scared. You were powerful." "No," Namjoon said. "I was owned." Jungkook took a step forward. "You think that justifies it?" "No," Namjoon whispered. "I think it explains it. And maybe that's worse." They stood in silence as a wind blew through the station, howling like a ghost that still hadn't found peace. Namjoon looked up. "They're going to come for you next. Let them. You're not ready." "I'm not afraid." "You should be." Namjoon reached into his coat and pulled out a worn envelope. He handed it to Jungkook. Inside was a photo. A girl, smiling, younger than Taehyung, 15, maybe 16. Her name was Ara, Namjoon said. She was supposed to be the next one. Jungkook's throat tightened. "She disappeared 2 weeks ago." "She's not dead," Namjoon said. "Not yet. Where is she?" Namjoon hesitated. "And then they moved her. There's a villa, East Coast, unregistered. No cameras, no guards." "You're lying." "No, I'm giving you a way to end it." Jungkook stared at the photo. Her eyes were bright, her teeth crooked. A real girl. Not a symbol, not a victim. Not yet. "Why are you helping?" Namjoon's voice cracked. "Because I see now that I've spent my whole life waiting for someone to do what I never could. And because if you don't save her, you'll never sleep again." Jungkook looked at him. "I won't either way." He turned and left. Namjoon didn't stop him. Yoongi was already at the apartment when Jungkook returned. Jimin was there too. He looked different. His eyes were bloodshot but clear, focused. His hand no longer trembled when it reached for the map. Jungkook dropped the envelope on the table. Jimin stared at the photo. "Ara," he said, "alive. Then we don't stop." Yoongi looked between them. "This isn't like before," he warned. "There are no cameras, no networks, no public eyes. If we go in knowing we might not come back. Then we go in," Jimin said. The room fell silent. Jungkook nodded. And so, the plan began. They moved at dawn. Yoongi drove. Jungkook brought the last remaining drive, hidden inside the lining of his jacket. Jimin carried the gun. It wasn't registered. It had belonged to his father. As the car sped past pine trees and tunnels, no one spoke. The silence wasn't emptiness, it was purpose. A vow without words. At 7:03 a.m., they arrived. The villa sat perched on a cliff, hidden behind black iron gates and high stone walls. Yoongi parked 300 meters down the hill. "There's a camera on the east corner," he whispered. "But I can jam it for 10 minutes. 10's all we need," Jungkook said. They moved like shadows, vaulted the fence, slid beneath windows, reached the back door. It was unlocked. That should have been the first warning. The inside was quiet, too quiet. Jungkook led, gun drawn. They searched room after room. Empty, empty, empty. Until the basement. They found her there. Ara, tied to a bed. Drowsy. Breathing. Alive. Jimin ran to her, untied her, whispered her name. She didn't respond at first. Then, "Help me." Yoongi checked her pulse. Drugged, but stable. They started to lift her. That's when they heard it. Click. Behind them. A voice. "I told you the virus spreads." Namjoon. Gun in halt. Expression blank. Jungkook froze. "You lead." "No," Namjoon said. "I just didn't tell you everything." Yoongi moved for his gun. Namjoon shot him. Once. In the leg. Yoongi dropped. Jimin screamed. Namjoon raised the gun again, but Jungkook stepped forward. "You won't kill me." Namjoon's hands trembled. "Why not?" "Because you need me to finish what you started. To make this mean something." Namjoon's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to burn them down. Then help us." "I already did," he whispered, and shot himself. The gun dropped from his hand as he collapsed to the floor, blood pouring from the wound at his temple. Silence. And then, sirens. Jungkook grabbed Era. Jimin pulled Yoongi to his feet. They ran. The media called it a mass suicide. The tapes, now public, triggered international outrage. Interpol opened investigations. Ara survived. She testified. Jungkook disappeared from public view. Jimin moved to Jeju. Yoongi. Well, no one knew. The war was over, but the wounds would remain. 1 year later, Jimin stood in front of Taehyung's grave. He placed a single camellia on the stone. "She was right about you," came a voice behind him. "Jungkook." "I found the last file," he said. Jimin turned. "It proves she tried to save others." "She saved us," Jungkook said, without even knowing it. They stood in silence. Then Jimin whispered, "So what now?" Jungkook looked at him, and for the first time in years, he smiled. "Now we live, not in peace, but in purpose. Because some truths aren't meant to be forgotten. Some fires never go out."